So this is my reaction video for the movie Get Out. I love this movie. I've seen it a bunch of times prior, and I feel like it really puts a spin on what the Gothic is, but kind of sheds a new light while still adhering to old tropes of the Gothic narrative, because we see this beautiful, grand house set aside from most of the neighborhood and just neighbors in general. And so that's kind of a really big key element. And then we see him, Chris, being kind of a Gothic heroine, which it kind of changes the narrative from it being like a girl who has these inklings of something going on, where now it's an adult man who also has this kind of sense that something's going to be happening. And then we also see kind of an unlikely helper figure, or just somebody who has a bigger insight, which is Chris's friend who works at the airport. So I think that it's really interesting how they reshaped the Gothic here. And so I'm just going to go over 2 or 3 scenes that I thought were really key to seeing the Gothic. So there's a lot to be said about the scene where Chris is getting a house tour from Rose's father. And this is where I'd like to start off with the house itself. It's mainly white, and there's a lot of light wood, golded trims. So I think in this moment we kind of see a juxtaposition in the colors, literally, where Chris is a black man and everything in the house is on a lighter scale, and it's kind of just opposing his skin color, kind of putting who he is to the forefront. We see the couch, we see the walls, all the trim is white. So I think this is a really key aspect here. And during this scene, the father is describing all of his souvenirs from his travels. And then on this moment, we see Georgina coming next, and it kind of gives this energy that these people are his souvenirs. It's not just items, it's people. And I think that we see this with Chris, especially throughout the rest of the movie. And in this time, Chris is sort of getting a sense that this guy isn't all who he is. He seems to be imposing odd facts about black runners and how he's very supportive. In a way, you would think that that's not true. Like, that's a guise for something else to just sound accepting, when in reality, he's not. And so in this moment, we see Chris's face look very questioning. He's very inquisitive and kind of has a sense that he already is getting an awareness that things aren't like what they seem. And this is where I would say that he's the Gothic heroine, as he has this kind of inkling that something's wrong. Not maybe in this whole full sense where it goes to the extent it does, but maybe in a way that he just knows that this isn't the reality how his dad, or not his dad, but Rose's dad, is trying to make it. In this moment, he kind of argues that the workers came from his parents and he couldn't let them go. But you can tell Chris is just trying to kind of play along and make the father of Rose feel like he's doing the right thing, when in reality we know that Chris has this sense that this isn't real. And so then they keep going and walking, and the dad is kind of describing their property, and we see here that there are no neighbors in this area. It is completely alone, and kind of get a sense that you can escape, that if you had to, you couldn't, because nobody's around, and if you were to try, it would just be you alone in these woods. And so I think that's another really big key aspect here.
I agree, yeah.
So yeah, that was my interpretation of just specifically that scene, because I feel like that scene does say a lot about the movie as a whole and gives a lot of context for what's to come and what you're supposed to kind of find eerie and question. And I think it paints the house and the surroundings in this really strict Gothic setting. And I feel like it just shows how Chris is a Gothic heroine, in the sense of him having these inklings and being suspicious kind of his surroundings and who these people are. And I feel like in the rest of the movie, we do get a sense of a Gothic helper, like normally would be a ghost figure, but in this way it's Chris's friend. And I feel like it paints the parents and Rose as all Gothic tyrants. I think that can definitely be argued, but I feel like they all play a role differently and all show aspects of Gothic tyrants. And I feel like that's also something definitely to look at, but I wanted to choose this scene because I think it just sets up a lot, and I feel like it could definitely be underrated. So yeah, that's my interpretation, and I really love the movie.